clothes?
Just because we black, we stealing your shit?
What?
Look at your shirt.
Will Smith and Martin Lawrence are fugitives on the run who come across some racist rednecks in Bad Boys Ride or Die, one of few new summer movies I'll be reviewing this week on CJ at the Movies, along with the directorial debut of M. Night Shyamalan's daughter, and a documentary on the late great Jim Henson. I'm Christopher Zweig. Let's take a look. And I was looking forward to this sequel because of how directors Adil and Bilhel have been able to take Will Smith and Martin Lawrence's iconic Miami PD characters Mike and Marcus to new heights in the last film Bad Boys for Life, but this sequel is a disappointment in terms of its action movie cliches and underwritten ideas.
Open the register. Stay right there.
Is that Skittles on the counter, Marcus?
This ain't mine, Mike.
Yes, it is.
I gotta go. Call 911. Aren't you the police?
This time around, their deceased Captain Howard, played by Joe Pantoliano, has been wrongfully accused of dirty deeds, so these two must set things straight. However, that same villain who frames Howard also makes our heroes and Mike's incarcerated son Armando, played by Jacob Cepello, wanted fugitives.
Sing us a little Reba song.
Reba.
Sing your favorite.
I'm a woman. So I'm a strong black woman.
Strong? Yeah, because she's not black.
Yes.
What you gonna do? What you gonna...
That ain't no Reba song.
It's from her mixtape.
Bad Boys Ride or Die wants to be another sequel in the tradition of The Fugitive, but it also wants to have Lawrence channeling on his own subplot inspired by Fearless with Jeff Bridges because of how he survives a cardiac arrest and thinks he's now deathless. Now there's something entertaining inside, but it all feels derivative and exhausting compared to what the last film brought us. And my negative review of this movie has nothing to do with Smith slapping Chris Rock at the Oscars, it has something to do with the cliches. Our next movie is In a Violent Nature, a Canadian horror film that doesn't need a soundtrack to support the gore and terrors within, but a masked villain who comes back from the dead after a young man takes his locket. This zombie slaughters anyone he comes across with, sometimes in the goriest fashion, the kind that Jigsaw or Rob Zombie would enjoy. It's sure to find fans of elevated horror films for a number of reasons, one of them being the camera angles. Part of the movie has long shots of the killer walking through the woods, which are chilling and patient. Another would be that this killer has the potential to be a cult villain, one who doesn't need dialogue, but a knack for evil and how he takes no prisoners, and the lack of score sets the mood and tone of the film in a haunting manner.
I dressed for yoga. I'm not getting this stuff wet.
Take it off then. There's no one around for miles.
Did you really think this was gonna work?
What?
This whole thing that you're doing.
I don't know.
There's not much character development in the victims, who are a group of friends renting a cabin in the woods, but In a Violent Nature is more about the killer and his perspective on his spree, which is beautifully photographed by writer-director Chris Nash and cinematographer Pierce Dirks. This movie should be a cult film, but with a better appeal than Winnie the Pooh Blood and Honey, and I skipped that bomb in its sequel. Next up, Young Woman in the Sea, which is based on the true story on how American swimmer Gertrude Ederle became the first woman to swim across the English Channel. She would be known by the press as the Queen of the Waves, and she's played here by Daisy Ridley. The time is the 1920s, and Gertrude is raised by her German immigrant parents, who both own the butcher shop on Manhattan's Upper West Side, and despite all the sexism regarding how men think women have no purpose to swim, she still decides to swim and train, even qualifying to swim in the English Channel.
She won't get past the 7th male.
I believe she'll die in that water.
You know, most men believe that we're too weak to compete. And what if I make it? Then they got a serious problem.
Parts of her childhood sequences are a little annoying, but Young Woman in the Sea has the kind of high spirits and optimism to have us rooting for the main heroine, even though this is based on a true story. It was directed by Joachim Roning in his most entertaining film since Kon-Tiki, and there are also challenges regarding Gertrude swimming through jellyfish and her sister, played by Tilda Cobham Hervey, not being able to swim with her in the race, and Ridley convinces us of her character's nature. This movie swims some strong laps. Up next, The Dead Don't Hurt, a western set in San Francisco during the American Civil War and features a romance between Vicky Krieps as a Franco-Canadian and Viggo Mortensen, who also directs, writes, and composes as a Danish immigrant. We see them living in a quiet shack in Nevada where they both have dreams of building a barn. She gets a job at a local saloon while he decides to enlist in the war. She thinks he's stupid and selfish for trying because he is an American and he's too old, but he needs to see for himself considering how he fought in his home country.
Thinking about enlisting.
This is not your problem. This is not your country.
It's the right thing to do, fighting against slavery.
The Dead Don't Hurt is the second film Mortensen has made after Falling, and even though the screenplay has its dry areas, his next directing job is better because of how he adapts to the accent, especially since the actor's father was Danish, how he guides Krieps with a 1950s attitude, and how he presents this western with patience and emotions. His previous western credits include Hidalgo and Appaloosa, so it would make sense that he would go to direct himself in the genre. Okay, here's something that's not really emotional. It's called The Watchers, produced by M. Night Shyamalan and directed by his daughter Ashana, who has worked with him as a second unit director on his last two entries, Old and Knock at the Cabin. Her directorial debut stars Dakota Fanning as an American woman working at a pet store in Galway, Ireland, and being assigned to deliver a parrot in Belfast, only to be trapped in a forbidden forest where creatures lurk. Her only recourse is to hide with her group of survivors played by Olin Fiore, Georgina Campbell, and Oliver Finnegan in a box known to them as the Coop. It has a two-way mirror where the creatures can study them.
They'll be very interested in someone new. What is that? What are they doing? Applause. For you, Mina.
The Watchers does look great with the foggy woods and the Coop, and Fanning does a good job with her character, but it's still a typical Shyamalan movie, whether it's directed by the father or the daughter. There are too many plot twists, the supporting performances from Campbell and Finnegan are crappy, and the creatures are inferior to the aliens in A Quiet Place. And next up this summer is M. Night Shyamalan's Trap. Let's see if it's better, worse, or equal to The Watchers. I mean, what did we really expect? And our last movie is Jim Henson, Idea Man, Ron Howard's documentary on the late great Muppet genius whose ideas and innovation have won the hearts of millions. From Kermit the Frog to Sesame Street to The Muppet Show to The Dark Crystal to Labyrinth, he knew how to bring characters to life.
His ideas came from excitement in him.
He said to me that from a very early age, he had the feeling that he was here for a purpose and a reason. And that was largely what drove him.
Even though it doesn't delve completely deep into his life, Jim Henson Idea Man still likes to remind us of the genius's optimism and innovation in puppeteering, how each generation in his life he was able to break new grounds and take his work to unprecedented new heights. It's about how he transitioned from regular puppets to commercials to guest appearances to hosting shows to making movies, and while it's not a perfect film, it still has a lot to offer for fans of his work. Disney Plus is where the film finds the rainbow connection. Recapping this week's new movies: thumbs down for Bad Boys Ride or Die, thumbs up for In a Violent Nature, thumbs up for Young Woman and the Sea, thumbs up for The Dead Don't Hurt, thumbs down for The Watchers, and thumbs up for Jim Henson Idea Man. Well, those are the new movies I'm reviewing this week. I'm Christopher Zweig. Stay safe, and I'll see you at the movies. For more amazing content, please like and subscribe to my channels, and please read my reviews at cjatthemovies.com and download the new HD Radio app.